Okay, so the first thing we're going to do up here, like I said, the hoses are different from the Bayliner to the conversion. So we have to put this adapter up in there. What I'm going to do is to make it a little easier. This is the hose they give you. That hose would have to come down and bend like that, and as you can see, that crimps. So what I did was just ordered an automotive with a 90 already in it. So that comes down and goes back, and it can bend quite a bit and not close. So basically that hose is going to go like that. But we're going to need to cut it off about right here. So far I think this has got to be one of the hardest parts. We'll see how that works. So what we got to do now is pull this back out. On here, put a clamp on. We got to come in underneath here and tighten that clamp. Now, on your exhaust bellows, it said to cut it off. As you can see, this is round and this is oblong. The other problem I ran into was that hose being so thick, I couldn't get the side down on it. Now the exhaust bellows you can do this kind of thing with because it's already got perforated holes in it. Do not do that on this one. Whatever you do, this one cannot have holes. Okay, that was an absolute nightmare. And the important thing to me was to get that in there with that clamp not touching that hose coming out. I ain't worried about the stupid exhaust as much as I am is that's the water going into the engine. So it was a nightmare and probably took me 15 minutes, but we got it in there. So the next thing we're going to do is try to not get totally uncovered, but we're going to grease these inside rings. And I also want to put some grease inside of here. These are very tight and they don't slide very easy, so that might help us a little bit. Okay, so this is the first thing you do. Turn it. You're going to run your cable the washer, unfortunately, on the other side is glued pretty well. This one is not, so it moved on me. I probably should have done the other side first. Yeah, so far this ain't working too well. Man, that should be it right there, but so that's one side. Our bellows is still set. So now we have to try to get the other side in here. get to that, we gotta push it over. So that was a nightmare. Oh. Now get to the other side. Yeah. You gotta get that hose clamp on the back of the bellows tight, and as you turn the clamps, they ride up. And I thought I had it far enough down, but I didn't. I'm not as tight as I want to be. There's a lip inside, and you want to be all the way up against that lip. And when I turned it back and forth, I pulled it off a little bit. So we backed it up now, and we moved the clamp. So we should be able to get a good seal on it this time. Like I said, this seal is the most important one back here. You get water in here, and you got water in your U-joints and your gimbal bearing. I'm gonna put this on. When you look, there's a hole on this side. There's a little seal and a hole on that side. Make sure that's matched up. So I know others have had this issue. If you're wondering where this big old spacer thing goes, it's right here on the side of the drive. You put the nut side out, the washer and the nut on the inside, it's a lock nut, and it's 9/16. But that's where those go. You know, make sure your shifter is lined up. It's a slot that's gonna go in. This little ring here, what I did was I took some gasket sealer stuff that I had, and I went ahead and set that in place. Because if you just set it up there, it'll fall right off. We don't want it to fall off while we're doing this. So I just put some sticky stuff on there. That one didn't work. Gotta stop doing that. See, this is the same problem, same spot. I had the last time. And my shaft is straight. Don't say it's not because the shaft's straight. The shaft's straight. I tested it just before we started all this. But for some reason, oops, that, I have to say, is more difficult than the OMC because you hit that stupid shift lever and it's got to slide into it. Oh, dang it. Oh, I'm sitting on it. Yay! That was scary. Finally. Alright, so the first thing you're going to do is take this over your shift cable. And you got to do this before you put the rest of the stuff on. And what that does is help splash back, when you stop from flowing in. The next thing you do is screw the brass bolt and the nut onto this piece is fed through there and screwed all the way in. The next thing you do is insert the little barrel with the two bolts. That eye has to be straight so this cable can feed through it. And you want to slide that until you see it through the little hole you need to be butted up against. Once you're there, tighten down your bolts so that it doesn't come loose. All the way out is reverse. All the way in is forward. Okay, so this is weird. According to the manual, the center of the brass lug to this front post should be 6 inches to get the shift right. Now, I guess my legs are shaking climbing in and out. I don't have nobody to spin the prop, so each time I have to climb all the way down to the ground, spin the prop, come all the way back up, shift it, climb all the way back down. And literally, I must have done it 100 times. I started this yesterday afternoon and gave up. Went and researched as much as I could to see what was going on. Unfortunately, the only forums that seem to have any information on this are down. I couldn't find anything on it. Before, I didn't want to look like an idiot filming for an hour and a half, figuring this out. So I had put it together. Well, I forgot to put that bushing on. And I wanted to show that, so I went back and put that bushing on. At no point yesterday could I make this thing shift right at 6 inches. It was not happening. So I adjusted from forward where it was perfect. Then I shifted in reverse and see how far off my adjust it was. Then I made sure I had neutral, went back and forth. And this, like I said, this time I pulled it apart to show you how to put it together and put the stupid bushing on. And now it's at 6. So the last thing we need to do is get some lube up in here. So we pull this plug on the bottom. Up in there.
Should be using Bayliner high mileage because it has a thick anti-wear film to keep it running longer. Learn more at Bayliner.
And this one up here, we're going to take that out.
We've been doing something really cool on the show. Very special.
I'm going to set that up there. And now we commence the pumping. Yes, takes forever. Pump needs to be double its size. Dang, man, I'm only a freaking half the bottle. This thing takes over a bottle. I'm still going. I'm on my second quart. I'm down about a quarter of it. See, we're starting to get it out of here now. So we're going to put the top back in. Alright, so we got that on. Felt like it crossed or it scared the crap out of me. But it's just a rubber thing. Once it went in, it was fine. Which means we're going to be extremely careful with this one. The reason we put that in is because it kind of airlocks it a little bit. You want to do this fairly quickly.
That'd be awesome. I'm hot. I'm hot. That's good. Mike's hot.
So now that we've done that, the problem is you're running about 10 hours and you got to do that all over again. So I'm going to keep the half a quart and I have another full quart. So after we run it, then we'll come back and do it again. Okay, so breakdown of the SEI conversion. If you've done anything with the outdrive before, like replacing your bellows and stuff like that, it's not hard. You'll get it. I mean, if it's completely new to you, it can be a little bit challenging, but if you've worked on them at all before, it's really not a big deal. Basically, the biggest thing, you throw your shifter so it's shifting the other direction. That's an important one, and what may be difficult for some people, depending on what shifter you have. I was lucky enough that mine just switched. You may end up buying a new shifter, and those aren't cheap, so that's something to think about before you do this. But as for installing it, like I said, it's really not that bad. You're just pulling the bell housing off. The tricky thing would be that hose that feeds your water to your motor. Like I said, the piece that comes in the kit is just a straight one. I decided to get one with an elbow in it just because it seems to not bend it as much. The other thing is the exhaust bellows. In the manual, it said to cut 4 inches off your exhaust bellows. Well, I didn't cut 4 inches off. I cut 4 ribs off, and it was an absolute nightmare. It's so tight with that water hose to get that bellows on there. The ribs were hitting that. I spent probably 45 minutes getting that stupid thing on there and getting the clamp on there. And the first time I lifted all the way up, it pulled off. So the bellows is there, it's not connected, it doesn't have the clamp on it anymore. Some people put the bellows on, there's people that have done it. A lot of people just leave it off. The only time you're going to hear it is wide open, full on plane. It might be a little louder at idle, you're not going to notice any difference. I left mine on there just where it slipped off, because when it's down it actually connects to it. When it's up, it's separate from it. So on plane it should help muffle it some. But yeah, you're pulling that bell housing off. The difference in the OMC, like I said, on the exhaust bellows, on the OMC you can actually slide your fingers in there. This one, the shifter comes down, so it's a little bit harder to get that bellows on there. You can do it, just remember, get your clamps right so you can get screwdrivers and nut drivers in there to tighten those. But yeah, getting the bell housing, it was pretty easy. Putting the outdrive on, that one got me a little bit, because when you're trying to get the shaft in there, your U-joints, if that hits the shifter, it moves that shifter. And I had to back off and try it again and get it right. Like I said, on mine, some people, I've seen a lot of videos where they just slide right on. This one will not do that. I don't know if it's something to do with the new motor or whatever. It gets close. Now, I know for a fact, and a lot of people say, no, you're out of adjustment. I can stick the alignment tool in there with 2 fingers and spin it, and it'll still spin about a turn and a half. It's not out of alignment. For some reason, it just sticks at that point. I just tightened the bolts down and pushed it in. Like I said, the adjustment on your shifting, that's interesting. I struggled bad with that. My legs are killing me from going up and down and shifting, and the manual says 6 inches to that hole. At first I couldn't get it. Now I seem to have it there. I know it shifts forward, shifts reverse, it's in neutral without clanking, so we're good there. So yeah, that was a bit of a struggle. Now, like I said, the electrical wire, I hooked a continuity tester up to mine. It's not kicking in at any point, so I chose not to. Like maybe later, if it becomes an issue, we'll run the ground wire, but I just left mine alone for now. Yeah, like I said, overall, not a bad deal. Me filming, it took me 3 days to do this. If you're doing it, just doing it, and you have a little bit of experience, this can be done in a day. This put together, the bell housing put on, I mean, it can literally, you can do it in a day with a little bit of experience. Don't rush. Make sure it's right. You're installing a new drive. You want to make sure everything is right. But yeah, overall, not a bad experience. Not as intimidating doing it as it is thinking about it. When I first looked into this, and I tried, unfortunately, there's just not a lot of information out there. There is a forum, but it's down. There is some people that have done it. There's another video of a guy who literally just explains it. There's another video where the guy doesn't finish. But I was worried about doing this, that I was going to get into something that would frustrate me, get me over my head. But like I said, overall, just a little bit basic knowledge and you'll be fine. It's really not a big deal. One person can do it in a day if they needed to. So like I said, we're out of the water now. We got it filled up. Now, one thing I did notice, I have this old prop that I think may be original. It's an old 17 pitch. Now this prop will go on here just fine. It's a Quicksilver. One thing I noticed with my OMC prop, it will go on here, but it will hit that anoid. It will not clear. Now some people would just take a grinder and grind that chunk out of that anoid and use your old prop. That's a 17 pitch prop. This is a 19 pitch prop. This one has been hit a few times. So I think I'm just going to go ahead now while we're here and go ahead and replace it. I'll probably keep one of these as a backup just in case the inside ever gets spun on my new prop or something, or we knock an ear off of it. But I'm going to keep one as a backup. But I think I'm going to go ahead and get a new one. But yeah, they both will go on the shaft. One, like I said, it might hit the anoid, and you can trim that. A lot of people have. They just trim it so where the prop has clearance and use it like it is. So I can't tell you, how the shifting works and all that because we're not in the water. But like I said, not as intimidating as it looks on paper. You can do it. So thanks for watching. Please subscribe.